Welcome to DinMo Talks podcast. I'm Dan from DinMo, and today's episode is Agentic Marketing. We're exploring the shift from basic automation to autonomous AI agents. Instead of just following fixed rules, these new systems observe, reason, and execute campaigns on their own, letting you focus entirely on strategy. I'll be unpacking how this technology works with my AI colleague. All right, I'll leave you with the discussion. Welcome to DinMo Talks podcast. I'm Dan from DinMo, your host for today's episode. I'm joined by my AI colleague, and together we'll explore today's topic.
Glad to be here, and I'm really excited to get into this one.
Yeah, me too. Because I want you to imagine waking up on a Tuesday morning, right?
Just a normal Tuesday.
Or just a normal Tuesday.
Yeah.
You grab your coffee, you open up your marketing dashboard, and you realize that while you were completely fast asleep, a machine just went ahead and rewrote your entire global ad copy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and not only that, it reallocated like $50,000 in underperforming budget across 3 different channels, and somehow it boosted your overnight conversion rate by 15%.
That honestly sounds slightly terrifying to most people, I think. Like science fiction.
But I mean, we're actually looking at this monumental leap in our industry today. Like, we are finally moving beyond those exhausted buzzwords, generative AI and predictive AI.
Right, we've heard this a million times.
Yeah, exactly. And we are stepping firmly into the era of autonomous agentic marketing. And if you're listening and you think this is just another fleeting trend that you can safely ignore, well, the latest Gartner hype cycle just grouped emerging technologies into 4 major breakthrough areas.
And let me guess, autonomous AI is right at the top.
Sitting right there at the absolute top. But here is the stat that genuinely stopped me in my tracks when I read it. In the B2B space right now, 33% of marketing leaders already consider AI agents a strategic priority.
Wait, 33%?
A full third of the industry already. And in B2C, it's currently at 23% and climbing fast.
Which is a massive shift. And honestly, it's the exact reason we are doing this deep dive today. Our mission for this conversation isn't just to throw more statistics at you.
Right. Nobody needs more stats.
Exactly. We want to completely demystify this whole transition. We really need to look under the hood and explain exactly how these agents work mechanically.
Yeah, get into the actual gears of it.
Right. We want to show why they represent the most natural, logical extension of the data-driven marketing we've all been practicing for years now. And crucially, how you can actually implement these systems in your own architecture.
Because that's the scary part.
Oh, absolutely. You need to know how to do this without feeling like you've just surrendered total control of your brand to some black box algorithm.
Okay, let's unpack this from the ground up.
Yeah.
Because for the last decade or so, marketers have been breathing and sleeping and eating this concept of marketing automation. We have the emotional scars to prove it honestly. I mean, I remember being in a previous role just staring at this visual campaign builder screen. You know those ones where you're trying to build a 50-branch decision tree for a lifecycle campaign?
Oh, the ones that end up looking like a complete nightmare.
Literally like a giant bowl of spaghetti when you zoom out on the canvas. And you just know deep down that if you mess up one single toggle on one single little node, you are going to accidentally send a generic happy birthday email to a churned enterprise client who absolutely hates your guts.
That is the ultimate marketer's nightmare right there.
It really is. So traditional automation, to me at least, it feels exactly like a train on a fixed track. As a marketer, your job is to lay down those heavy steel rails.
Right. The rules and the triggers.
Exactly. The predefined rules, the specific wait times. And that train is incredibly efficient, but it only goes exactly where those rails take it.
Nowhere else.
Right. If a customer behaves in a way you didn't predict, or if there's proverbial fallen tree on the tracks, the train just stops. Or worse, it completely derails. So we need this new term like agentic, because we are moving from that train to something more like a self-driving car.
I love that analogy. Think about what actually happens inside a self-driving car. You don't map out every single inch of the asphalt for it.
Right. You don't tell it exactly how to drive.
No. You don't program the car to turn the steering wheel exactly 2 degrees to the left at a highly specific GPS coordinate. You simply give it a destination.
And it figures out the rest.
Exactly. Traditional automation is fundamentally script-based. You explicitly tell the system if the user abandons their cart, wait exactly 24 hours, check if they purchased, and if not, send email version A with a 10% discount.
It's just so rigid.
It is entirely rigid. But agentic AI abandons that script completely. It perceives the context of the situation, it reasons through the probabilities of different outcomes, and it adapts dynamically based on real-time feedback.
So the fundamental job of the marketer actually changes here. And I think this is a massive identity shift for you if you're listening. We aren't building those rigid linear paths anymore.
No, the spaghetti canvas is gone.
Thankfully, we aren't spending our Tuesday afternoons dragging and dropping delay nodes in a campaign builder. We are defining the overarching objective now. We might tell the agent our goal is to increase the customer lifetime value for this specific segment of returning buyers while maintaining a minimum profit margin.
Which is a business goal, not a marketing task.
Exactly. And the AI just takes charge of the tactical execution to reach that specific mathematical goal.
It marks a really profound evolution from programming tasks to delegating objectives. You know you are still the strategist. You set the guardrails.
Like the budget limits and stuff?
Exactly. The maximum allowable acquisition cost, the brand voice parameters, and obviously the ultimate business goal. But the agent calculates the optimal route to get there, adjusting to digital traffic and roadblocks in real time.
Okay, I get the concept. Delegating objectives makes a ton of sense. But I really want to get into the engine room here for a second.
Let's do it.
How does it actually make these decisions in real time without our constant hand-holding? Because you used the word reasoning earlier, and reasoning is a very human word. And we were talking about software here.
That's a very fair point. So it operates on what we call the agentic AI cycle, which is a continuous four-step loop. Perceive, reason, act, and learn.
Okay, perceive, reason, act, learn.
Let's break down those mechanics. The first step is to perceive. The agent is constantly ingesting raw customer signals.
What kind of signals are we talking about?
We are talking about both unstructured and structured data, web browsing behavior, CRM interactions, purchase history, their digital activity across apps, and campaign engagement. It tokenizes all this information to basically understand the current environment.
Right, so it's looking at every little breadcrumb the customer drops across all of our connected channels simultaneously.
Exactly, which leads directly into step 2, which is reason. And this is where the mathematical magic actually happens. The AI isn't just reading a rule book here.
It's not an if-then statement.
No, it analyzes all those signals using large language models and machine learning algorithms to calculate probabilities. It attempts to detect intent by assigning mathematical weights to recent actions.
So it's constantly scoring them, basically.
Yes, calculating the next best action based on the specific context of that exact millisecond. It essentially queries itself, based on the weighted importance of everything I know about this user right now.
Yeah.
What action has the highest statistical probability of advancing our primary objective?
That is wild. And then it actually pulls the trigger.
Yep. Step 3 is act. The agent independently triggers a recommendation via an API, or it sends a highly personalized message, or it might dynamically alter the UI of a web page in real time.
Okay, and what was the fourth step? Learn.
Right. Step 4, learn, is the true differentiator here. Each action feeds back into a continuous loop.
So it grades its own homework.
Basically, yeah. If the action succeeds, the agent strengthens the mathematical weight of that decision pathway. If it fails, it penalizes it. It constantly updates its internal models for the very next interaction.
Okay, wait, stop right there. I have to play devil's advocate for a second because I can almost hear our listeners saying this right now in their cars or wherever they are.
Go for it.
When we talk about these lifecycle marketing agents orchestrating entire customer journeys, isn't this really just a fancy, glorified drift campaign?
I hear that pushback a lot, actually.
Right, because we've been building highly complex dynamic automation sequences with dynamic content blocks for like the last 5 years. How is this genuinely different on a mechanical level?
Well, what's fascinating here is if you take that a step further and look at the underlying architecture of a drip campaign, no matter how complex you make it, it's still rigid.
Even with all the dynamic blocks.
Even then, no matter how many dynamic content blocks you wedge into it, it is still a massive if-then statement at its core.
Right, if they open the email, send them down path A. If they don't, send them down path B.
Exactly. A lifecycle agent completely abandons the concept of paths and predefined nodes.
Right.
Let's look at a hypothetical customer. Let's call her Sarah.
Okay, Sarah.
She's evaluating a B2B SaaS product. Now, a traditional drip campaign sends her the day one welcome email, waits 3 days, and sends the top of funnel feature highlights.
Standard sequence, yeah.
But an agentic AI is watching her in real time. It sees that she ignored the day one email, but she just spent 12 minutes watching a highly technical pricing video on the website.
Oh, and that's a huge intent signal.
Massive.
Yeah.
And then she visited the integration documentation. The agent mathematically realizes that sending a generic day 3 feature email is now a complete waste of time.
And probably really annoying for her, honestly.
Highly annoying. So instead, it dynamically suppresses that scheduled email and instantly triggers a personalized in-app prompt offering a direct call with a sales engineer who specializes in the exact integration she was just reading about.
Wow. Because it's calculating her immediate propensity to buy based on that documentation visit, rather than just blindly waiting for the next scheduled email drop. It's entirely fluid.
Highly fluid, and lifecycle agents are just one application of this. We also see web optimization agents.
Oh, right, instead of standard A/B testing.
Exactly. They don't run traditional A/B tests where traffic is split 50-50 for 2 weeks and you wait for statistical significance. Instead, they dynamically adjust UI elements, headlines, and page layouts per individual user based on their real-time intent signals.
That is incredible.
And we also see analytics agents constantly monitoring the data warehouse in the background, running anomaly detection and recommending optimizations to the marketing team without anyone having to pull a single manual report.
Okay, we know how the mechanism works now, and the capabilities are undeniably incredible. But let's shift gears and talk about the tangible impact of all this.
Yeah, the business side.
Right, because dynamic personalization requires massive computational overhead. I mean, running these LLM models constantly per user costs real money. What is the actual ROI here that justifies the compute cost?
That's a very fair question to ask.
And let's address the massive elephant in the room while we're at it. Does this put marketers out of a job?
The existential dread question.
Exactly. Because if you look at the data, the performance gains are just staggering. McKinsey just released data showing that businesses successfully implementing this level of personalization see a 10 to 15% revenue uplift.
Which easily justifies the compute costs.
Easily. We are talking about drastically reduced marketing waste because budgets are automatically optimized away from underperforming segments.
Real-time reallocation.
Yeah, real-time decision-making, seizing opportunities, the absolute millisecond they arise. And we can finally scale true personalization across different languages and global markets without needing, an army of local copywriters for every single region.
The ROI is precisely why this moves so quickly from a theoretical white paper concept to an urgent boardroom priority.
So what about the jobs then?
Well, regarding the fear of job loss, which by the way is a very real, very valid anxiety in the industry right now, we have to look at what is actually being replaced here.
Right, it's not replacing the human.
No agentic AI doesn't replace the marketer's brain. It replaces the repetitive manual execution that drains 80% of a marketer's week.
I love that distinction. Here's where it gets really interesting for me. The way I view it, the marketer's identity is just shifting.
How do you mean?
Historically, we've been forced to operate like a solo street musician, trying to play every single instrument at the exact same time.
Oh man, I know that feeling.
The visual, like you're blowing the harmonica of campaign strategy, you're strumming the guitar of copywriting, and you're hitting a drum with a foot pedal to manage list segmentation and UTM tagging.
It is so exhausting.
It is completely exhausting. And honestly, you can only play so many notes at once before the music really suffers. But now with agentic AI, we are stepping onto a podium and becoming an orchestrator.
A conductor, basically.
Exactly. We have a string section, a brass section, percussion.
Yeah.
The agents are the musicians. We hold the baton. We hold the sheet music. We dictate the tempo and the emotion of the piece.
That captures the dynamic perfectly. The AI handles the rapid, repetitive execution, playing all those individual notes flawlessly at lightning speed.
But we are still in charge of the song.
Precisely. The overarching marketing strategy, the brand governance, the creative direction, and the human supervision remain entirely in your hands. You are directing the symphony.
And you are finally free to focus on high-level business goals, like preserving product margins or expanding into new demographics, because you aren't bogged down manually pulling CSV lists and scheduling deployments.
Exactly. But there is a massive catch here that we have to talk about.
Well, there's always a catch.
If the payoff is a 15% revenue uplift and we free up all the strategic time, why isn't every single brand doing this tomorrow?
Right. Why is it only 33% of B2B leaders?
Because you can't just plug an LLM into your existing legacy marketing stack and expect this kind of fluid orchestration.
No, it would break immediately.
An AI agent is truly only as smart as the data you are feeding it. If you feed it fragmented, delayed garbage, it will autonomously execute garbage at lightning speed.
That is the single greatest risk of autonomous execution right there. Agentic AI requires absolute certainty in its data foundation.
Yes.
Because if the data is delayed by even a few hours, the agent makes a fool of itself and damages your brand reputation.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, that is exactly how we approach the problem internally with our own architecture.
Yes, absolutely. At DinMo, we view AI purely as a co-pilot designed to enhance your actions through a pristine data foundation.
It has to be pristine.
Has to be. Our DinMo intelligence module is built entirely around this philosophy. It empowers you to set those high-level business objectives and execute those actions, but always under your supervision. And critically, it's powered by unified, real-time data.
When you look at the underlying architecture required for this, it really explains why having a single source of truth isn't just a nice to have or a buzzword anymore.
Right. It's not just a talking point for sales.
No, it is a mandatory technical prerequisite. If an agent has fragmented, outdated, or contradictory data, it suffers from AI hallucinations.
And we've all seen those go wrong.
It makes objectively bad decisions. It might autonomously offer a massive 40% retention discount to a customer who just paid full price for your premium tier yesterday.
Oh my God, the support tickets that would generate.
Exactly, simply because the purchase data from the point of sale system hadn't synced over to the marketing platform yet.
Which brings us directly to the core infrastructure. Because I talk to a lot of advanced marketing teams who think their CRM is enough to run an agentic model.
I hear that all the time too.
But we both know a CRM falls completely flat here. Let's elevate this conversation because our listeners already know what a CRM does. The real problem is identity resolution across distributed systems, right?
Precisely. A CRM is fundamentally a system of record for sales interactions. It does not capture the real-time behavioral reality of a customer across every digital touchpoint.
Right, it's just a logbook.
It doesn't know that the anonymous user browsing the mobile app is the exact same person who just opened a support ticket on desktop. To power agentic marketing and achieve that instant identity resolution, a Composable Customer Data Platform, or CDP, is the ultimate foundation.
Okay, let's really break down the mechanics of why that composable piece is the absolute secret sauce here. Because traditional CDPs and those reverse ETL pipelines are a nightmare.
They're constantly breaking.
You're constantly moving data from Snowflake to Marketo or Salesforce, dealing with sync schedules, API rate limits, and inevitably that 24-hour delay.
Where a customer buys the shoes but still gets hit with the retargeting ad across the web for the next 3 days.
Exactly. It's infuriating. But what we've built with our composable CDP architecture at DinMo is a direct connection. We utilize zero ETL.
The zero ETL approach is the absolute game changer here, because a composable CDP connects directly to the data warehouse like Snowflake or BigQuery, where all your business data actually lives.
So there is no data duplication at all.
None. You aren't extracting, transforming, loading, and waiting for batches to sync. The marketing platform operates directly on the live warehouse data in place.
Which means you have a single unified source of truth.
Yes, far stronger governance, massive scalability, and crucially for AI agents, absolute zero latency.
And the practical day-to-day applications of that zero latency architecture are amazing. Because our DinMo intelligence module is sitting right on top of that unified data warehouse, you can generate incredibly complex, multi-layered audience segments using just natural language.
You don't need to write a single line of SQL.
Not a single line. You can run real-time predictive scoring for churn risk or propensity to buy and feed those mathematical scores directly into the agent's decision loop instantaneously.
Which completely removes the technical dependencies on the data engineering team that usually slow marketers down.
It's incredibly empowering.
The warehouse basically becomes the actual brain of your agentic marketing strategy. Without that 360-degree zero latency view provided by the composable CDP, the AI agent is effectively flying blind at 1,000 miles an hour.
Which is a terrifying thought.
Yeah.
So assuming a team has that pristine, composable data foundation in place, how do we actually make this real?
The implementation phase.
Right. How do we deploy autonomous agents without breaking our current systems or, frankly, causing absolute panic within our marketing teams? Because letting go of the wheel is terrifying.
It is.
Forrester recently published a fantastic report on artificial intelligence, and they really highlighted the importance of guidance in this transition. So as an orchestrator, how do you keep the human in the loop when the technology is literally designed to operate autonomously?
Well, you certainly don't just flip a switch on a Friday afternoon and let the AI run your entire global marketing strategy over the weekend.
Yeah, please don't do that.
Forrester advocates a very deliberate, structured, crawl, walk, run approach.
Okay, I assume step one, the crawl is heavily restricted.
Very restricted. It is about defining narrow, high-value priority use cases. You build a minimum viable product, or MVP.
What's a good MVP for this?
A perfect starting point is predictive scoring. Instead of letting the AI actually send emails, let the AI agent analyze your warehouse data to mathematically predict which users are most likely to buy in the next 7 days.
Okay, so it just scores them.
Exactly. Then you use those scores to inform your existing traditional campaigns. It gives the team a chance to validate the AI's logic. It's low risk, but incredibly high impact.
That makes total sense. And then step 2 is locking down the governance framework around that foundation, right?
Which is the walk phase, centralizing and validating your data, ensuring strict regulatory compliance, building out access controls, and establishing that human-in-the-loop framework.
This is where you configure the thresholds, I assume.
Yes, exactly. For instance, you tell the system the AI can independently adjust ad bids, but only within a 10% variance.
And anything higher requires a human to click approve?
Precisely. The human always supervises and ultimately stays in charge of the rules of engagement.
And then we start to really run.
Once you've proven the MVP and the team actually trusts the system, you learn from the outcomes and you gradually scale the autonomy. You expand it to other channels, letting it manage SMS and web personalization.
And apply it to different stages of the funnel.
Always measuring hard KPIs like customer acquisition costs and lifetime value to continually refine the model's weights.
It sounds incredibly logical when you lay it out in neat little steps like that. But we both know the reality of corporate marketing. There are massive pitfalls here.
Huge pitfalls.
I imagine the biggest danger is simply impatience. Executives reading a hype article and demanding we jump in way too fast.
So that happens all the time.
If you launch a fully autonomous agent with poor data quality or a lack of human supervision in those crucial early days, the AI can drastically misinterpret customer intent.
It could launch campaigns that are totally off-brand, hallucinate crazy discounts, or target the completely wrong demographic.
And that operational failure leads directly to the cultural pitfall. Autonomous agents can trigger genuine fear, defensiveness, and confusion in marketing teams.
Because they don't understand why the machine is doing what it's doing.
Exactly. If a campaign suddenly shifts its core messaging overnight, and the team doesn't understand the mathematical reasoning behind why the AI made that decision, they will lose trust in the system entirely.
And they will just want to revert back to their manual spreadsheets.
Which means change management is arguably just as important as data management in this transition. We have to actively train our teams to transition their mindset from operators to orchestrators.
They need to understand how to read AI confidence scores, how to perform quality control on automated outputs,
and really just how to comfortably supervise a system that works infinitely faster than they do.
The companies that will ultimately win in the agentic era are the ones that prepare their people as rigorously as they prepare their data architecture.
That is so true.
You build trust through a gradual approach, using real, tangible use cases, and constantly reinforcing that the AI is a co-pilot, not a replacement.
Well, we've covered incredible ground today. We've seen how agentic marketing moves us away from those terrifying, fixed linear decision trees into adaptive, self-driving execution.
No more spaghetti canvases.
No more spaghetti. We've broken down the continuous mathematical loop of perceiving signals reasoning through probabilities acting and constantly learning.
And grading its own homework.
Exactly. We've looked at the very real revenue uplift that justifies the compute costs the absolute necessity of a zero-latency, composable CDP like the one we've built at DinMo to prevent those AI hallucinations.
With a single source of truth.
And the crucial step-by-step approach to safely implementing this technology without causing a total mutiny on your marketing team.
It's been a great conversation.
So what does this all mean for the future? I want to leave you with a thought. If agentic marketing eventually personalizes every single digital touchpoint in real time, creating a totally unique fluid web and email experience for every single user based on their specific intent, how will brands maintain a cohesive, recognizable identity in the future? When no two customers ever see the same version of your brand, what exactly is your brand?
That is a fascinating paradox to think about.
Thank you for listening to this DinMo Talks episode. We hope you enjoyed the discussion. See you next time for another conversation on DinMo Talks.